As of right now, we are standing on the banks of the Guadalupe River, and this is not what it normally looks like. You can actually see, even though the rain has subsided for now, all of the devastation and debris clearly right behind us. Crews in this area coming from all over the place and working throughout the
yeah, we're talking about the flash floods in Texas now.
night to try and find the missing.
This morning, search and rescue crews desperately looking for the missing following the deadly floods in central Texas. The storm killing at least 24 people, with many more still missing. Families pleading for information after more than 20 children still unaccounted for from a summer camp.
I have assured all of the local officials here, whatever these communities need, the state of Texas is going to step up and provide it.
The city of Kerrville seeing some of the worst devastation, urging residents to evacuate and move to higher ground. The mayor issuing a disaster declaration as the Guadalupe River reaching 26 feet high, the second highest recorded height in history. 12 inches of rainfall in a matter of hours, flooding roads, buildings, and cars, and sweeping away houses. Entire neighborhoods left unrecognizable. This RV park completely destroyed. The same flood waters almost sweeping away this man and his wife.
We went ahead and jumped out, and we got washed down 3 houses, and we finally ended up snagged on a big bush.
Helicopters hovering over trees, performing urgent rescues like this one. Crew members picking someone out of the branches. In nearby Hunt, Texas, families urgently trying to find their loved ones at Camp Mystic, an all-girls summer camp of 750 children. More than 20 campers still missing.
We will stop at nothing to ensure that every asset and person and plane and whatever is needed is going to be involved in the process of rescuing every last person.
The camp was evacuated after flooding hit the Guadalupe River, and while some parents have been reunited with their children, others continue to wait for answers. The family of one camper, 10-year-old Greta Toronzo from Houston, telling us that their daughter is still missing.
Please pray for our community. This is a hard day, and there will be hard days to come.
Absolutely devastating, obviously, for this entire community and also for the families of the missing. Some of them are actually posting pictures just like this with their names and information of many of these campers, trying to get the word out there of what their children look like, trying to aid in the rescue and the search any way they can. Meanwhile, officials are warning this community that more rain is on the way for later today. Janae?
Just unimaginable heartbreak for those families, Maria. Thank you. Let's bring in Cheryl Scott from our Chicago station WLS. And Cheryl, what can you tell us about this flooding?
Yes, and more flooding expected through.
Texas officials blast National Weather Service for faulty forecast and deadly flood disaster. Ryan Grimm says, I could not possibly be filled with more rage after seeing Texas Republicans blame the National Weather Service forecast for the unspeakable tragedy that hit the girls' camp. You were warned this would happen if you fired everyone. You actively chose to fire as many scientists working on the federal government as possible and have even taken weather balloons out of the sky. These were people who dedicated their lives to this stuff, and you fired them so you could do tax cuts. You do not now get to complain that weather forecasts are off. Please go find these girls and rehire these scientists. It can't be known at this time what the specific effect of the cuts was. What can be known is nobody who supported all the firings gets to complain about the performance of an agency they torched. And stop letting people build in known danger zones. Do you think the warning coordination meteorologist position at the Austin San Antonio office was important? He left in April as a part of the Doge cuts, which offered early retirement to reduce the workforce. It's now vacant, part of the strategy of reducing staff through attrition.
That we received on Wednesday from the National Weather Service predicted 3 to 6 inches of rain.
This is the same as like air traffic control, reducing the numbers of air traffic control for decades and decades and decades, and then complaining that planes are either not on time or falling out of the sky. It's just like they did this, they made this problem, and then they get to complain, I guess.
In the Concho Valley and 4 to 8 inches of rain in the hill country. We worked with our own meteorologists to fine-tune that weather statement, and as many of you know, and many of you in broadcast journalism and meteorology, you can go back and look at your own forecast, and the amount of rain that fell in this specific location was never in any of those forecasts.
This rain event sat on top of that and dumped more rain than what was forecasted on both of those forks. When we got the report, it was about 7 feet or so on the South Fork, and within a matter of minutes it was up to 29 feet, and all of that converged at the Guadalupe, and that's where we saw those very quick rise in flood.
But listen, everybody got the forecast from the National Weather Service, right? You all got it. You're all in media. You got that forecast. It did not predict the amount of rain that we saw. The original forecast that we received on Wednesday.
Texas is blaming the National Weather Service for the weather changing from the original forecast. The 3 satellites that the Department of Defense stopped allowing NOAA access data from June onward from June 30th were specifically designed to monitor rapid intensification like what occurred. If you want to point fingers, start there. We have warned about the National Weather Service and NOAA and their regular business being disrupted, not only underfunded, but like deliberately left in a state of disrepair for months at this point. And now that the chickens are coming home to roost, the fact that the very people who like played a key role in this, the party administration, the apparatus that played a role in this, the ideology that played a role in this, the ideology that also is playing a formative role in defunding FEMA as well for disaster on the disaster relief side. Make no mistake, like we're burning the candle from both ends here. Okay, we are disrupting the ways in which, like, we're not doing anything about climate change. Okay, that's a given, right? That's not happening. But the fact that we are also simultaneously making it harder to predict, to take the additional steps necessary for at least like saving more lives, and then simultaneously defunding the aspects that are perhaps most necessary in the upcoming years, like FEMA, to engage in the recovery and rebuilding efforts, is insane. This is not negligence. This is deliberate. I don't know how else to read this other than like they just want people to be victim to natural disasters that are going to keep increasing in size, magnitude, frequency as a direct consequence of anthropogenic climate change. And because these sorts of any sort of real measure, any sort of real systemic solution to anthropogenic climate change is seen as like anti-capitalist and woke and communist and leftist, but because it's like harmful to the bottom line of the oil and gas giants, the fossil fuel industry, which we are firmly committed to, we are not only not doing anything about climate change, but we're also taking this additional step to reduce any sort of warning system that we had, like significantly cut back on the warning systems that we have and cut back on the recovery and relief systems that we have as well. It makes no sense. There have been claims about NOAA and NWS did not foresee catastrophic Texas floods, but that's simply not true. This was undoubtedly an extreme event, but messaging rapidly escalated beginning 12 hours prior. Flood watch mid-PM, heads up, outlook late PM, flash flood warnings 1 a.m. WPC issued as many 6 MPDs for the deadly flash flooding in the Texas Hill country, starting yesterday evening and lasting through much of today. The first MPD generally set the stage for what was to come, while the next 3 shown were as the event unfolded. As always, it's not to blame the victims. Quite the opposite. This truly was a sudden and massive event and occurred at the worst possible time, middle of the night. But problem, once again, was not a bad weather prediction. It was one of the last mile forecast / warning dissemination. I am not aware of the details surrounding staffing levels at the local National Weather Service offices involved, nor how that might have played into the timing and sequence of warnings involved. But I do know that locations that flooded catastrophically had at least 1 to 2 plus hours of direct warning from NWS. A big part of the problem, I think, is also, this is not victim blaming at all, but from all the Texas chatters that were in here yesterday, from what I understand, and I kind of get it from LA as well, because like we rarely have flash flood warnings, but it does happen every now and then. But oftentimes when a flash flood warning comes in, it's not as severe, right? So I think it's one of those things where people see that, especially at night. They didn't even see it most likely. But when they see it, they just ignore it because they just don't think that it's like super deadly. No one takes flash flood warnings seriously. I have received flash flood warnings in the past in Los Angeles and just went, oh well. And I guess like, especially with the frequency of flash flood warnings in a place like Texas, people most likely assumed it was just like a little thing and not as severe, not as significant. It's like, it's the worst of all events coming together. Holiday weekend, happens at night, rapid escalation going from the, 6 foot to what, like 20 plus feet out of nowhere. Like it was just it was a horrifying situation, especially when you consider that most of Texas is built on floodplains. So with no real way to have the water move through the land or have the land suck up the water. So there's also that. I don't know Texas state specifically, but usually there's also like a levee system that they have in a lot of these states that are susceptible to extreme flooding that ends up destroying some of the lower income neighborhoods in an effort to save the higher income neighborhoods. That is a real levee structure that they have in places like Louisiana, for example, where they will quite literally build levees that end up dumping more water than normal into lower income neighborhoods in an effort to save higher income neighborhoods. So there is that aspect of capitalism as well. No, I don't think the levee system happened here. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that is like, I'm making a broader point about how the way we design society ends up harming poor people more in events like this. I'm not saying that this is what happened in Texas. So it's basically the powder keg situation. One thing I do know is that this part of Texas Hill County is infamous for sudden and violent flood risk. That is an intrinsic product of being a hilly region with flashy watersheds subject to occasional but very extreme precipitation events arising from the bathtub warm Gulf. I'm not really clear on why a region so well known for its severe flood susceptibility apparently did not have a better warning system in place. That's something I'm sure the others with better local knowledge can dissect in greater details. But this does illustrate a few tragic and uncomfortable truths. The first is that even quite good weather forecasts do not automatically translate into life-saving predictions. There's a lot of other work that has to take place to contextualize the forecast and ensure it gets to the right people. Baba ben yedim senin şeyi. Çünkü midem bulanıyordu. The second is that the NWS historically has done a very good job at that forecast contextualization, outreach to the local governments, emergency managers, outdoor recreation facilities, etc. But that's one of the first things to go away when offices are critically understaffed. Exactly. Like, this is a suspicion, right? Because at this point, we haven't done an autopsy yet. There is no like full-blown autopsy yet as to how we got to this point, right? But the initial suspicion is that given the budget cuts and the understaffing that already exists in a lot of these agencies, it probably limits the amount of outreach they can do in a critical moment, which is precisely the reason why these agencies should not be understaffed ever at any given point, because this is a life-saving measure. It is crazy. It is crazy that this is like even a point of contention. Hold on. Doors open. Yok açtım. Yemek. Yok ben alacağım. Boş ver sen. Hayır. Otur. Allah Allah.
Throughout the morning into the afternoon, just catastrophic damage in this region. And obviously, we've been talking about those fatalities. We are looking at some of the scenes coming out of this area, and you can just see that destruction, the raging waters. We have impact.
FEMA closure announcement is in Texas from July 2nd. Disaster recovery center closing permanently. 3 disaster recovery centers in South Texas are closing permanently. Hidalgo County, Starr and Willacy County. The following DRCs remain open: Cameron, Harlingen, Hidalgo, and West Laco. Nice. It's great. I know new party just dropped. Elon Musk dropped the new party. I know.
And destruction to homes. You can see the trees down, and then this is overlooking the Llano River in Texas right now, and you can clearly see the raging, rushing water here. clearly overflowing its banks. More rain on the way, and that's why we do have alerts up in effect for parts of central Texas. We have that flash flood emergency, which has been issued for parts of Travis and Burnett County throughout the morning, with an additional 5 to 10 inches of rainfall in this area. So more flash flooding and destructive flooding will be a concern throughout the day today. Gio.
Okay, Cheryl, we will be following that throughout the morning, and we are thinking of those families. Thank you for that.
At least 27 people have been killed, many of them young girls, in flash floods in the U.S. state of Texas, with 27 still missing. Rescue efforts continued today in Kerr County after the equivalent of 4 months of heavy rain fell in just 2 hours in the early hours of yesterday, causing the Guadalupe River to break its banks. Several of those unaccounted for are young campers who were staying at an all-girls summer camp along the banks of the river.
Heavy rain was predicted, but not like this. The River Guadalupe in central Texas transformed into a roiling flash flood as the waters rose 8 meters in the space of 2 hours, sweeping away upturned trees, plastic junk, and, it's feared, dozens of girls at a Christian summer camp a few miles upstream of the small town of Kerrville. Among the confirmed dead, 9-year-old Renee Smalstra. At least 20 of her friends are thought to still be missing. It is a terrible wait for families and friends. Billeted at a local primary school, now a makeshift reunification center.
We will do everything humanly possible 24/7, looking at every tree, turning over every rock, whatever it takes, if your child is one of those truly missing and not just out of touch, to find your daughter.
The aftermath is close to apocalyptic. Residential streets completely submerged, car roofs barely recognizable under the free-flowing waters. Entire homes lifted from their stanchions and dumped asunder. Helicopters winched survivors to safety in the midst of panic.
By the time I went to get my keys to move my truck out of the way, to just back up across the street, the water had risen and flooded my truck. The water got up there in the door about this high. And I looked at my wife and it was like, we need to get out of here.
This part of Texas is known as Flood Alley. Underneath these waters lie thin soil.
When we bought our house here in Texas, it was roughly $100K less to buy within a flood zone. It's dystopian here. If you can't afford to pay the high prices, you risk flooding over and over again. Our flood zones flood probably at least every year, a time or two, and you have to redo that house, especially when we get hurricanes, etc. Yeah. A lot of the densely populated areas of Texas are straight up on flood zones. One of the craziest parts about this, by the way, is when we say, wow, this is unprecedented. At a certain point, unprecedented is going to be precedented. It's getting to a point where all of these unprecedented events are not necessarily unprecedented at all. It's expected. And we haven't caught up yet to that reality. I feel like we always still say, like, once in a lifetime. This is a once in a lifetime situation. It's like, okay, but it's happening multiple times a year. So I don't know if it's a once in a lifetime situation, because it doesn't feel like it's a once in a lifetime situation. You can't keep saying that if it's happening multiple times a year. And at which point we have to obviously redesign society around at least prevention and also relief and recovery, when in fact the current administration is moving in the exact opposite direction of that, which is so crazy to me. It's like living next to a fucking volcano and being like, oh, it just never explodes, never explodes. And then the volcano erupts and you're like, oh, this happened once, it's fine. And then rebuilding. But then the volcano erupts again every 5 years. And then the volcano erupts again and again and again. And it erupts multiple times a year. And you're still like fucking, Pompeii style, living in the fucking ass cheeks of the goddamn volcano. And just saying like, no, it's fine. Also, we don't need to monitor the tectonic movements at all. We don't need to try to figure out if the volcano is going to erupt at all. And also, whatever kind of like relief and recovery efforts we need in the aftermath of the volcano, fuck it. We don't need that either.
Soils, which when baked in the heat of summer, refuse to soak up thunderstorms. The water just bounces down the hills into bone-dry tributaries. Questions are being raised. Why were these rains so much heavier than predicted?
There's a lot of conspiracy theories floating around about cloud seeding. Yeah, so here's the thing. The reason why those things are increasing like Jewish weather machines, cloud seeding, things of that nature, the HARP weather machine gun or whatever, or chemtrails. The reason why that's happening is exactly the same reason why people go crazy mode with mass shootings as well. Mass shootings are not a natural disaster. Mass shootings are commonplace in the United States of America when it shouldn't be commonplace at all. There is a solution to mass shootings, okay? It's called gun control. But because that is never going to happen, at least with the current order of business, at least in the way that like Americans have designed society, people have to come up with different reasons for why this happened. And at first with mass shootings, it was not door control, but like, oh, these are soft targets. The teachers are not armed, but then the teachers are armed, or at least there's like a cop on fucking site. And then they turn around and say like, oh, we got to arm the teachers. And then the teachers are armed and there's a cop on site. Then they're like, oh, we got to lock these doors, right? Anything but the actual problem. And inevitably you arrive at, when you exhaust all of those other alternative fake solutions, you inevitably will arrive at like something insane, like this is a psyop. This was cultivated. This was created by, the government or something. And it's the same thing with these natural disasters, where we know that they are increasing in size, magnitude, frequency. They are no longer extreme weather events that are once in a lifetime. It's happening numerous times throughout the year. We know what the reason is, but nobody wants to actually actively say what the reason is. And on top of that, we are underfunding the prevention methods. We're underfunding the warning systems, and we are underfunding the recovery and relief efforts. So if you don't actually literally laser in on the problem, the actual problem, you have to come up with an alternative solution. And that's precisely how you arrive at these fucking weird conspiracy theories. That's it. Conspiracy theories are an inevitability if you are desperately avoiding the truth and you need like some sort of fantastical narrative that ties everything together. And that's why people say, oh, it's the weather machines.
The original forecast that we received on Wednesday from the National Weather Service predicted 3 to 6 inches of rain in the Concho Valley and 4 to 8 inches of rain in the Hill Country. We worked with our own meteorologists to fine-tune that weather statement, and as many of you know, and many of you in broadcast journalism and meteorology, you can go back and look at your own forecast, and the amount of rain that fell in this specific location was never in any of those forecasts.
Extreme weather events like hurricanes in the U.S. Deep South and fires in California are getting more frequent. It's getting harder to forecast what will happen and where. The vast majority of scientists agree that climate chaos is accelerated by humans burning fossil fuels and increased carbon and methane levels in the atmosphere. But at the same time, the climate skeptic Trump administration is cutting funding and staffing at the National Weather Service and NOAA, which conducts climate research. President Trump yesterday promised help for the communities affected. Central Texas, his MAGA heartland.
We're working with the governor. It's a terrible thing.
More heavy rainfall is expected. And while the river waters have begun to recede, the ground is sodden. The risk of further floods has not gone away.
Well, a short while ago, I spoke to Washington Post reporter Arelis Hernandez, who is in Kerr County, and I began by asking her how bad the situation is on the ground.
It's catastrophic for this particular region. Central Texas and the Hill Country is known for floods. The Guadalupe River has flooded in the past, but it seems as though people here did not have a lot of warning that this was coming. And please apologize, there are still rescue helicopters flying overhead.
Yeah.
And people woke up in the middle of the night to rising water all along the Guadalupe River. So where I am, as well as upstream from here, more than 800 rescues were conducted throughout since yesterday morning into today. And those efforts are continuing, waiting to hear whether they will indeed turn into more recovery efforts. So far, I believe 27 is the death toll, and there's still about more than 24 child campers missing.
And that is the horror of this. There are many families that woke up this morning to discover that their daughters may be missing.
Indeed, Camp Mystic is well known throughout the city of Texas. It receives little girls from all across, from Beaumont to Dallas to from Houston, and there were parents who were on their way here to find out whether they would be reunited with their children or if their daughter was among those who were still unaccounted for.
And are there other camps that may be stranded and potentially missing kids?
Well, this is an area popular and a big part of the economy out here, these summer camps, particularly summer youth camps, as well as sort of religious camps. There are about 18 of them. And so there was a similarly situated boys camp, La Junta, that had to be evacuated. As far as we know right now, none of those boys were lost in the water. Most have been evacuated to reunification centers at local high schools, as well as an activity center here not too far away.
And are people angry that the weather forecast didn't predict this huge amount of rain?
I think people are still in the throes of rescue and trying to figure out and put their heads together and processing what has happened here. It's absolutely devastating. I know this area personally. I tube down this river from time to time. I spend a lot of here.
A private weather company is putting blame on local officials. AccuWeather sent warnings ahead of Texas flooding that killed at least 27. These warnings should have provided officials with ample time to evacuate camps such as Camp Mystic and get people to safety, the company said. AccuWeather sent warnings ahead of Texas flooding. Wait, AccuWeather is AccuWeather is the weather forecasting company that gets all of its information from the NWS. AccuWeather is the one that wants to make the NWS privatize, right? So they can control all of the flow of information for commerce and everything else that's like necessary. They want to make that a monopoly market. They want to control all of the information on weather.
Time up here at the vineyards, and I think people are still sort of processing and haven't gotten to that point yet. But I do think that angle will rise as we get a better picture of how many lives were lost here and what could have been done to have prevented some of that loss.
And do you anticipate that there will be any kind of discussion around the political context with the defunding of NOAA and weather forecasting for climate skeptic reasons?
Certainly, inevitably, those are the types of issues that will come up as the.
Bro, they're going to cynically do the same thing that they did with mass shootings, where they say, how dare you politicize this? I can see it now. They're going to be like, right now, we're too busy with the recovery efforts, so we're not going to be talking about this, but we will remember what all the Democrats said in the meantime, making this into a political football game when it's like, dude, you literally did this. Like, what the fuck do you mean?
Days continue as search and rescue turns into recovery efforts. I do think that that'll probably be part of the conversation, but certainly not yet what's happening here. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are on social media debating that right now, and defending the National Weather Service. But right now, that is not the conversation that is dominating.
How confident are authorities that the missing people, the missing girls, may be found?
They're making every effort. There have already been sort of miraculous survival stories that have emerged. A woman who was swept almost 20 miles from where she was camping with her family survived by clinging to a tree. I think there is quite a bit of hope, but as we get into deeper into the hours since this tragedy struck, certainly hope is waning.
Arelis Hernandez, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us. We're grateful.
Thank you.
And we continue to follow breaking news out of Central Texas. With this hour, a desperate search and rescue effort continues for dozens of people.
This is also like, even if you do a correct autopsy, a correct assessment, and you find out that like the defunding of these agencies did not play a role in this at all, which is highly unlikely because it always plays a role. But let's say they do an autopsy and the autopsy shows that it was because of the severity of this event, that even if there were more people that were able to inform people in proper time, that that there would still be plenty of people that got swept away. Okay, then we have to have a larger conversation about how these extreme weather events are, I guess, no longer extreme, that it is just a part of our everyday reality. And therefore, we have to figure out why it's happening. It's that simple.
People missing after floodwaters inundated an area north of San Antonio. Among the missing, 27 young girls from a camp, Camp Mystic, one of many summer camps along the Guadalupe River. And this morning, another round of heavy rainfall triggered more flash flood emergencies in the region. Hundreds have been rescued, including this person who was clinging to a light pole. Officials say at least 27 people have died, 9 children and 18 adults. Among the fatalities, 9-year-old Janie Hunt, her mother confirming to CNN today that the young girl who was among the 24 missing from Camp Mystic has died. And also confirmed killed Jane Ragsdale. She was director at another girls' camp, Heart of the Hills, which was not in session at the time. Ragsdale is described as the heart and soul of that camp. We've got a team of correspondents and
It's so fucking sad, dude.
meteorologists covering these fast-moving developments. Let's begin with CNN's Ed Lavandera in hard-hit Hunt, Texas. Ed.
Hi, Frederica. Well, this morning as we were arriving here in Hunt, Texas, we were surveying some areas that were heavily damaged. And from just beyond this ledge that went down in toward the edge of the river, we heard a man calling out Joyce Catherine. Joyce Catherine happened several times, and we kind of followed the voice, and that's where we met Ty Baden. He is a father of 21-year-old Joyce Catherine Baden. His daughter had come out here to spend the July 4th weekend with 3 other friends in a home just along the river. And they lost contact with the group around 4 a.m. early Friday morning. Ty Baden has spent the morning walking. By the time we met him, he'd already walked along about a mile, had come across the body of another young victim and called it in to 911. And this is a father desperately searching for his 21-year-old daughter in hopes that he would stumble upon a miracle. Your daughter was here with 2 friends?
Yeah, 3.
3 friends?
You know, and
so it's 4 of them?
Correct. And she and the young man, they went to elementary school and high school together, and the young, one of her friends, Ella Cahill, that's her boyfriend, Aiden is, they went to school through high school, so they've known each other a long time. The other girl, her name is Reese. I can't remember her last name right now. She is Ella's roommate at UTSA, so we've never met her or her parents, but God bless her, and we pray that all 4 of them are still alive.
All 4 are missing?
Yes, they're all missing, and you know, it's been 4 o'clock yesterday morning that we were told that, you know, they were on the phone with Aiden's dad, who they own the house where they were. It was a very nice house, no longer there. And Aiden said, hey, you know, I've got to go. I got to help Ella and Reese. So he gave the phone to.
Remember, in the backdrop of this also, FEMA is set to be underfunded. It's already underfunded. It's set to be defunded. And some of the disaster, not the disaster relief, but the pre-existing FEMA expenditures, some of the pre-existing FEMA expenditures have been reallocated to the alligator Auschwitz. That's where some of that money is going. You think about the National Guard, right? You think about the National Guard and where those funds, where those funds should be prioritized. Trump's too busy using National Guards in like in the state of Florida or the state of California as a part of his like immigrant apprehension schemes. You know, that's where these that's where the effective systems are being used. The existing like military function is being used in that regard, in that direction. Great.
To Joyce Catherine said they just got washed away, and then a few seconds later, the phone went dead, and that's all we know. So we presume that she got washed away as well. And if you go back to where the house is, it's not a good sign. And that's why I was telling you, my son and I are walking, and I thought it was a mannequin. It was a little boy, about 8 or 10 years old, and he was dead. So we just...
You saw that this morning?
Yes. So we're just walking and doing the same thing we were doing. Look, when we stumbled across him. But hopefully we can find our children, our daughter and her friends alive. So anyway, I ask you if you would pray, and whoever watches this thing, pray. We got together and picked up our son and came over here, and we waited around at a center, and God bless them, they're doing a great job. It's in Ingram, Texas, at the elementary school, and they're kind of like the place where all the survivors are brought. And we were hoping that we would hear our daughter and friends' names called, but they never did call. So we said, this morning we're going to come out and try to find them ourselves.
I mean, you're walking through this mess, hoping for a miracle.
Amen. Keep the faith. That's all we can do. So that's all I got, Ed. And thank you.
Can you tell us about your daughter?
Yes, she's a beautiful girl, and I think I sent you a picture. Just a wonderful girl.
FEMA does a lot of work in mapping floodplains to assess floods and insurance risk. They're defunding now. Will only make things worse. There's about a 25% chance a house will flood in a 30-year mortgage period. If it's in a 1% floodplain, you can type in Kerr County here to see how wide even the 1% floods are mapped from FEMA. I just don't know. I don't know, like where is the disaster recovery people? Like, what? Am I crazy? Shouldn't it be not these guys out there right now? Shouldn't it be like rescue teams mostly out there? Like enough rescue teams that they don't have any need for guys like this, and that guys like this are supposed to literally stay at home under different circumstances. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they normally stop people, like parents, from going to the disaster area because it gets in the way of the recovery and relief efforts. Because then it's like not only a liability, but they can also get stuck and then become victims themselves and exhaust the already limited resources that these rescue teams have. I don't know.
Couldn't ask for a better daughter. All through school is just easy, no shenanigans or anything like that. I mean, she was a normal girl. We would have fun, but yes, we loved her dearly.
And Frederica, what I found gut-wrenching is as we were winding down the interview there, as he continued the search, he told me about how he read a book years ago about a father during World War II whose child had been in a house that had been bombed, and that the father spent days and days combing through the rubble trying.
Oh, yeah, Alligator Auschwitz also got flooded, apparently. I don't know about this video, but this has happened in this area a lot. Anyone missing after a significant amount of time is assumed to be in an underground cave or water system. I don't know if it's this video, but no, the video is fake, but it did, from what I understand, it did flood. The video is fake. The video that we are looking at, I think, is not real, but it did actually flood. Alligator Auschwitz flooded a couple days ago. And it is going to be so much. I mean, is Florida wetland? Of course it fucking floods. It's literally, it's built on a swamp. This is the real footage. Oh, here. A good little storm passed over us here at Alligator Alcatraz. Here's what it looks like from inside one of these tents. Wait, why can't I see? Oh yeah, see, this was what happened. Remember, this is like a tent, by the way. Like they're inside of a fucking tent. They will all die. One hurricane and everyone's dead. It's just like it's not designed to survive a hurricane. But that is kind of the point, I think. It's a concentration camp that will very quickly turn into a death camp by design.
Trying to search for his son and never gave up. And after days of combing through the rubble, that the man during World War II found his kid. And he just told me, he goes, I hope I'm that guy today.
Gosh.
And that's
that's powerful.
Rather stunning moment as you think about what that poor man and his family are going through today.
I hope he's that guy too. All right, Ed Lavandera, thank you so much. Officials confirming at least 27 people are dead and dozens more are missing following severe flash flooding in Kerr County. An intense rescue effort is underway right now after torrential downpours triggered the flooding along the Guadalupe River, raising the water level more than 20 feet in less than 2 hours. Our CNN affiliate KABB is on the ground in Hunt, Texas, showing us the catastrophic damage at one community store.
I want to walk you through, they didn't want to be on camera, but they walked me through this area and what it did look like. So they said that this was once all boarded up. This was all brick and now completely opened up. That just goes to show how fierce that storm was and how it powered through. I want you to walk with me down here closer so we can get a closer look inside the actual building. You could just see just the debris that is completely clinging on to the building. But if you take a closer look here inside, you could just see.
My dad keeps saying that this recent natural disaster in Texas happened because of Joe Biden and immigrants. What do I even say to that? What? What does that? What are you? What? Bro, I mean, at that point, your dad is he needs to be checking into a fucking insane asylum, dude. What do you mean? Like, sorry, chatter, but your dad is fucking insane. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. I don't understand. I don't even understand how that would make sense at all. Yeah, it's like saying this is a Mexican river and that's why it flooded the beautiful state of Texas. Like, it's just, at that point, you're so far removed from reality. Bro, that is straight up crazier than even assuming that there is a conspiracy theory that involves like space lasers, man. Like, that just doesn't even make any sense. I don't know how you arrive from point A to point Z on that. That's just your dad repeating things that he has heard. It doesn't even have to make sense. He's just a talking point repeat machine.
It is just completely packed in there, just all the debris that just swept right into the Hunt store here in Hunt. This was a staple, they were telling me. I did speak to the cashier who worked here for many years, and so he saw a lot of residents come into the area. I also want to mention that closer down here, again, there's lots of debris.
There's no proof of
branches down power lines.
The alligator prison is to be fitted with an incinerator. I don't think there's proof of this. That sounds insane. I think that's the blue one on going
devastating. What
crazy.
they told me was right over here is where the post office once was. If you believe it, I was completely shocked. He said this is the brick from the post office. And as you can see, it's completely gone at this, it's no longer here. But what we did find was a Cassandra, what's her name tag, which was somewhere further where we first started. It's just, everything is scattered here. It's just devastating, just the amount of destruction this floodwater caused here in Hunt. So we're still speaking with residents here, and I did ask the cashier here about like rebuilding. You know, where do you go from here? And he says, you know, you just completely take this, you just rebuild from the start, bottom up.
Mm-hmm. And a local resident whose family lived in the area for more than 100 years says he's never seen anything like this.
This very well may be the worst flood Hunt has ever seen because it would have started back up the South Fork. The devastation is unbelievable. How these kids survived in any of these camps along the river is nothing short of a miracle. But I grew up with this store. Like I said, I've danced here, I've been here, sat by the fireplace in a rocking chair.
I just want to point out something here, but like, these people and who they voted for is utterly irrelevant. And if you bring up who they voted for or say they voted for this or even gloat, I will laser you out of existence. Okay? Just like whenever these kinds of natural disasters take place in a blue state, Republicans immediately are like, well, God's punishing you. And then it happens in a red state. You got Democrats saying, oh, God's punishing you. You wanted this. Okay. You can criticize systems. You can criticize the government and its ineptitude, its malicious criminal negligence. Okay. But you can't fucking blame the people that are going through this horrific experience. Okay, we don't do that shit here.
And drank a beer. The devastation. There are just no words, Taylor, that I can say that describe what I'm seeing. My ranch, it was completely underwater. The water got that high. Just unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And again, 27 people, including 9 children, their bodies have been recovered. They died. And the search continues for 27 young campers, all from an all-girls camp.
In the days since it became
hold on. Before we get to Zohran Mamdani, there's a couple other things I wanted to cover here, but yeah, I saw this already. Navy to stop sharing satellite weather data with NOAA, which I don't even understand why. As of July 31st, the Navy's Fleet Numerical Meteorology and Oceanography Center will stop sharing satellite weather data with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, according to a NOAA release. I don't even know what this reason is. This service change determination will be permanent. Data gathered from the Defense Meteorological Satellite Program, or DMSP, all near Earth space weather instrument and other Defense Department-owned systems will cease to be provided to the NOAA. Is it because they're like cutting costs? Is it because they're shutting down this fucking satellites? I don't even know if they would shut down the... Will you ever talk about Ibrahim Traoré? Yes, I have in the past. Please stop asking me randomly every single day if I will talk about Burkina Faso and Ibrahim Traoré. Okay? Goddamn, chatter. I read security concerns as in cybersecurity or something. That makes no sense. I feel like the war being waged against the National Weather Service and NOAA specifically revolves around one, privatization. Obviously, they want like a private company to own all of the weather forecasting services, because that would be an incredibly profitable institution. You understand? Because every single human being, every single company that engages in logistics, for example, that engages in commerce in some way, needs to know what the weather conditions look like. Okay? And right now, that's all being tracked by the government and actually being distributed for free. If you privatize that, someone can develop an immense fortune, because what are you going to do? You can't engage in any service whatsoever without knowing what the weather is. Okay? There's no world where this exists. Like you can't do agriculture, you can't do logistics, you can't do supply chains, you can't do grocery stores, you can't do anything. No air travel, no commerce whatsoever without knowing, without having access to accurate weather forecasts. Yeah, your local pizza shop does scheduling based on weather reports, everything. It's a necessity for every aspect of commodity production, okay? Which is wild, because if they paywalled this, it would be an immensely, it would, first of all, costs would go up for every single thing, okay? It would lead to inflation. Why would it lead to inflation? Because now you have to pay for this service. Unconditionally, everyone has to pay for this service. And either they would do it through a government-funded program, which is what the Democratic version of this would look like. Democrats would basically work in this privatization side and make it a public-private partnership where the government subsidizes this service, but it's in private hands all of a sudden rather than a public good. Okay, the Republicans, on the other hand, would fully privatize it, would offer it subsidies, and then would make it so that everyone has to pay for a subscription on top of that, which would, of course, drive up costs for everything. It's fucking insane. Like paywalling these sorts of reports. The other reason why they want to do this, I suspect, is because the NOAA and the National Weather Service and all of these other predictive mechanisms revolving around climate also do long-standing reports, like decades into the future. They try to do predictions for climate change specifically and how it changes everyday existence. So I suspect that's the other reason why they don't want to have these services, because it kind of fucks up the bag for the fossil fuel companies when people are constantly chirping about how much our carbon footprint is destroying the planet and creating these horrifying, chaotic situations with regular frequency. This is from The Ideological Dismantling of NOAA and NWS begins on page 674 of Project 2025 and is well underway. Okay? This is from Project 2025 from the Heritage Foundation. The footprint that Trump is following, the blueprint, that Trump is following to a T, okay? Down to every period and comma. Together, these form a colossal operation that has become one of the main drivers of the climate change alarm industry and as such is harmful to future U.S. prosperity. This industry's mission emphasis on prediction and management seems designed around the fatal conceit of planning for the unplannable. That is not to say the NOAA is useless, but its current organization corrupts its useful functions. It should be broken up and downsized. NOAA today boasts that it is a provider of environmental information services, a provider of environmental stewardship services, and a leader in applied scientific research. Each of these functions could be provided commercially, likely at a lower cost and higher quality. Oh my God. It's exactly as I said. They want to, one, privatize it so that people can make money off of it. And two, they want to fucking destroy its function as like its primary function, which is to try and predict how bad things are going to get. This is the modern version of like arresting Galileo, okay? Like literally, this is the current capitalist version of this. You're just like, nah, dog. What is this fucking Earth is revolving around the sun bullshit, dude? Nah, the sun is revolving around Earth. Fuck you. Okay? That's what this is. Galileo is a fraud, but analogy holds. Yes. Stop. Don't be annoying. You know what I mean. Okay? Oh my God. Every fucking actually Andy is chirping. I knew as soon as I said Galileo, I knew that we were going to get this in the chat. Focus the NWS on commercial operations. Each day, Americans rely on weather forecasts and warnings provided by local radio stations and colleges that are produced not by the NWS, by private companies such as AccuWeather. This is bullshit. This is also a lie. These AccuWeather could not exist without the NWS offering its services to AccuWeather for free. AccuWeather is simply a distributor of NWS reports. Make no mistake, AccuWeather does not have its own internal function. AccuWeather is basically a forwarding mechanism. It is a private message forwarding mechanism. Okay? Oh my God, I'm watching it. I'm watching it happen in real time. It's so fucking frustrating. It's so scary. AccuWeather does not have prediction systems or forecasting systems. It is a message forwarding system. That's all it is. What is their goal for when climate change doesn't magically become a hoax? What do you mean? We're there right now. You're in it. We're currently watching climate change very much being real, and its devastation also being very much unavoidable, undeniable, and you're seeing it. You're seeing what the usual suspects are saying, and you're seeing the actions that they're taking already. Marjorie Taylor Greene, fucking cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, comes out with another banger tweet. I am introducing a bill that prohibits the injection, release, or dispersion of chemicals or substances into the atmosphere for the express purpose of altering weather, temperature, climate, or sunlight intensity. It will be a felony offense. I have been researching weather modification and working with the Legislative Council for months writing this bill. Bro, she means she read fucking Facebook posts. I can't believe this person is a congresswoman. Like, this is crazy. It will be similar to Florida Senate Bill 56. We must end the dangerous and deadly practice of weather modification and geoengineering. This is not normal. I want clean air, clean skies, clean rainwater, clean groundwater, and sunshine just like God created it. No person, company, or entity or government should ever be allowed to modify our weather by any means possible. Honored to add Tim Burchett, classic, as a co-sponsor, and look forward to working with more members of Congress, hopefully on both sides of the aisle. She does not mean CO2. She does not mean carbon emissions, okay? When she says harmful injection and dispersion of chemical substances, she means chemtrails. She thinks that there are people out there that are modifying the weather. They're doing like, they're making these floods crazy. They're increasing the intensity of these floods. Like, that's what she's implying. She does not mean methane. She's not talking about the carbon footprint. She's not talking about climate change. Oh, this is like that one Uber driver that I had, but is an immensely powerful figure in American politics. Just in general, like a congresswoman is a very powerful figure. Like, they have the capacity to write bills like this. They have their own version of a bully pulpit. That's where we're at in this fucking country. We haven't made it illegal yet, at least, for scientists to do what they do best, which is gay woke science. But I feel like, I guess that's the next step eventually. Like, we're making it so that it's virtually impossible for them to conduct their studies. No adequate funding. And then if people still continue doing it in spite of all of those issues, maybe the next step at that point would be to fucking make it illegal. I don't know. Maya has an update from Alvea Sanctuary. It says all of our animals and staff are safe, but this is what our driveway looks like. Nobody will be able to get in or out until we can rebuild the road. That is crazy. No, they kind of have. My colleagues are taking out. That's true, but it's not illegal is what I'm saying. Like, it's still not illegal. They won't go to jail for fucking writing transnational, but they will get dinged for, using the word transnational in a fucking in an article, in a journal, in a scholarly journal. That is real, by the way. The administration is so fucking stupid that when they control F the word trans and will go after research papers that have the word transnational because it has trans in it. Not only are we violently stupid, but we're also doing this in the stupidest way possible. They started with banned words from government-funded scientists in the first term is way worse. Now the EPA workers aren't being indicated, are they? Transducer, electrical engineering is fucked. Transformation. We've taken out the words female and children from our grants. What the fuck? I'm in biology academia. We have to leave out words like diversity in grant applications. Oh, yeah, they did that with transgenic mice. We have the dumbest people leading this goddamn country, and it's leading it into oblivion. Every day things get worse. I am not being alarmist when I say this. Things are just getting worse and worse every fucking damn day. And many people, instead of like recognizing that things are getting worse every damn day, are simply getting dumber with the wind. They're just leaning into the stupidity of the admin, and they're reveling in it. People wear stupidity as a badge of courage now, as a mark of honor, where they're like, nah, you don't understand. I don't know anything, and I'm scared of everything, and that's a good thing, you fucking pussy.
Through such a time as this, and this tragic situation is something that is unprecedented. We recognize that at the federal level. We also recognize that when something like this happens to a community, happens to a state, that the best responders are those locally, because it's your family members, it's your community members that are being impacted, and you can respond quickly. And the role of the state is to run and manage that emergency, but the federal government needs to be here for the support and extra resources on the ground as well. And that is what we are doing and what President Trump has dedicated to continue to do through such a time as this.
I work as a manager in a heart disease and stress study. We ask all our participants about their treatment by police and authority figures, and we lost half of our National Institute of Health funding. My whole team has been fired except for me and one other manager. It's fucking insane. Texas resident already seeing people blame this flood on immigrants somehow. How is that even possible? How? Like, what? Like, that makes even less sense than fantasizing about like a Jewish weather machine or something. Like, how have we arrived at a point where like psychopathic anti-Semitic conspiracy theories at least have like some semblance of a logical, like some semblance of a logical through line, as opposed to like what the new meta is? What do they think? That like immigrants, like Mexican immigrants, are doing voodoo, like they're doing rain dances or something? Like, how Abbott blamed AOC and the Green New Deal for the freeze in 2021. I've had people repeat it to me as the reason to this day. I don't understand it. What's good? Yo, it's in the bag. Right at 2 on the dot. It's crazy. No, Fiona. As a child of immigrants, I can confirm we do be doing rain dances